Sarah Hoover is a mom of two who's giving us an honest and refreshing reality check on motherhood.
And she's holding nothing back in her debut memoir, The Motherload, which is getting a ton of buzz.
It sure is. And I think, you know, Sarah, first of all, good morning. We're so happy you're here.
Morning.
But
thank you.
I feel like the reason it's getting tons of buzz is that it's so honest. And sometimes when we talk about parenting, we don't have real conversations.
It's hard to, because there's so much shame associated sometimes with your truth, you know? And I feel like as women, it can be hard to push through that. There's a lot of judgment.
Yeah, and I think also, you know, when we talked about this yesterday, but it's like you leave the hospital, you take this questionnaire, you're in such a, you know, you're in a surreal head space, and you've just done the hardest thing that any human being will ever do in their life. And you are, you know, you're not really, you haven't had time to really assess how you feel, what the reality of coming home is going to be. For you, what do you think, you know, is, from your experience, what do you think is a, you know, signs that you can kind of look for to check yourself, you know, when you're home, and try to understand if you may be struggling with postpartum depression, because it's something people don't really talk about.
And it took me a really long time to figure out that that's what my problem was. But I think for me, it wasn't just sadness. It was a sadness I couldn't pull myself out of.
Yeah.
But it was also rage. I was so mad at my husband, at my doctor, at the world for having me believe that giving birth would make me a natural mother, and I would be considered a good woman if I figured it out and it felt great to me. When the reality was I didn't meet those expectations, and I've had so much guilt about it, and I was just really mad that I had felt so misled.
Right, and there's also, I think when you talk about expectations, there's this expectation that, you know, oh, this is going to be the best experience for you. Aren't you so happy?
And people, not only that's the expectation, but people say that to you
all the time. You must be so happy. Isn't this the best time of your life? And
so
you may
to
not be feeling
speak
like
your
that.
truth would feel like going against sort of societal norms, right?
Absolutely. And the truth was, for me, when that baby came out and they put him on my body, I felt nothing. And I thought it would be the most beautiful moment of my life. And I felt like such a kind of a freak because of that. And it was so hard to finally admit that to people, because I thought I'd be so judged.
I was telling Scarlett that my mom always said to, you know, my sister, but to both of us, like, you may feel anxious. It may feel heavy for you. And somehow it kind of prepared me for what was to come. And I feel like your book is sort of doing the same thing, probably for even strangers, to know that there are a lot of different experiences.
That's my hope. I always say that I wrote the book that I wish I had had in that year after I had my first child, because I reached the end of the internet trying to find a story that would make me feel better about what I was going through. I read every book I could find, and there wasn't a tale that made me feel seen and made me feel acknowledged for what was happening to me. And so I wanted to provide that for at least one other person.
You've had a second babe.
That's right.
And you had a very different experience.
Every time it's different, you know, because I've had friends also that did not struggle with postpartum depression with their first baby, and then the second one they had all these feelings of, you know, being sad and anxious and angry, like you're describing. So, you know, it can be different for everybody, and each pregnancy is different.
Absolutely. It's not a given that you will or will not have it, but I will say with my second, I was very prepared. I wanted the birth and the newborn experience that I didn't have the first time. I made a list that I brought to my OBGYN of criteria that I knew would make me feel safe in her office and in the delivery room, and she was incredibly generous, and she cared, and she was willing to fulfill those criteria.
What are some of the questions? I mean, even if that was the only thing that you could take away, these are some of the questions that you can ask
a friend.
Or even ask your doctor when choosing what doctor you would like, or which practice you would like to give birth with. What can you ask them that could be helpful?
Something that was really important for me was that I feel in control of my body, even in a medical scenario. And I requested from her that she just narrate what was going on. Because those moments of panic in an office when you don't really, or in a hospital room where you don't know what's happening next, you don't know what they're doing to you. I just wanted her to clue me in and make me feel like I was a part of the process. Even that alone. And even a doctor saying, no problem, I can do that for you. And exhibiting that level of care can make a world of difference for someone who's, you know, it's the most dangerous day of your life.
And so many women have had that experience. I'm sure, you know, we all have here, where you're at your gynecologist and you don't know what to expect, and all of a sudden something's uncomfortable or something's happening, even in your, you know, when you're giving birth, you never know, things could change on a dime. Let me know what's going on. So I've participating in this.
Yeah, it feels like a totally reasonable.
Of course, but it's not the standard of care, and it's the most vulnerable moment, and it's a vulnerable moment that women go through on a regular basis. And I just don't think it's that hard to provide that level of empathy for someone. And turns out, if a doctor's caring, they'll happy to do it. Yeah.
Well, Sarah, this book is funny. Also, it's honest and it's really refreshing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Check out the Motherload. You can get it at today.com/books or wherever you buy your books, your indie bookstore.